Pete Buttigieg has been making the rounds trying to catch Kamala Harris and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the polls for the next Democratic Party nominee for president. And this clip is going viral from his sit-down with comedian Andrew Schulz. The conniving, deceptive, and destructive behavior of Democrats is the theme of today's video. And what Tom Homan blows open here on Fox News about the Democrats' open border plan in combination with the judicial system to change the electorate in America is going to blow your mind. And finally, beware, beware, beware. Last week, Congressman Jamie Raskin explained how when the Democrats get in power again, they are going after everyone who facilitated this tyranny upon America. So basically, you voted for Trump and you're done if the Democrats get elected again. Well, they just took it another step further. Here is Ilhan Omar explaining what the Democrats would do, their plan if they had the majority. This should scare the crap out of you. I'm Zach Costello.
You all know that Democrats are in the minority in the House and in the Senate, and that drastically reduces our power. If we were in the majority, here's what we would be doing. We would be holding non-stop oversight hearings about what the Trump administration is doing, carrying out investigations into the corruption and the abuses of power and illegal actions. We would be holding Trump appointees in contempt of Congress when they lie under oath and violate the Constitution. And trust me when I say this, we would be suing Trump for stealing congressional authority, especially spending power.
Well, thank God they're not in power and they're in the minority. I mean, dangerous stuff. Basically, lawfare against their political opponents for implementing an agenda that they don't agree with. These are the types of people that we are dealing with. And this loud and extreme segment of the Democratic Party, they want the moderates out. They are playing for keeps, and they'll do anything to get and keep that power forever. And here is Tom Homan exposing their plan to do so. This is crazy.
Here's what they're doing, Bill. Here's the plan. The Biden administration overwhelmed the system. 10.5 million people came to the border. They know it's going to take years to get through the court docket. By then, they're hoping there's another Democratic administration in. They'll have U.S. citizen children. Then all of a sudden, nobody wants them removed. We're spoiling their plans to have future Democratic voters and through a census, have control of the House. Through a census vote, Democratic sanctuary cities get more seats in the House. This is their plan. That's why they overwhelmed the system. That's why they didn't detain them. When they detained them, they get a hearing in 35 days. They released them. Now it's going to take 5 to 7 years. They're going to keep playing this game through the immigration courts, through appeal after appeal after appeal, district judge to slow us down, because their hopes is they'll gain power again, then they can warrant amnesty to 10 million illegal aliens that are released in this country illegally. That is their plan, and we're trying to remove these public safety threats and national security threats as quick as possible. They're putting every roadblock imaginable in front of us to prevent us from doing that.
Elon Musk has explained this is how the state of California was hijacked and turned from reliably red to blue. This is the model. They shout that this is a right-wing conspiracy. We all know how these conspiracies keep turning out, though. We cannot underestimate our opponent here. Sure, they've stumbled and have been a mess lately, but they've set this deep state up to serve their purposes and in a sly and cunning way, under the noses of the American people, which leads us to our final clip. Pete Buttigieg has been making the rounds, jockeying for position in the polls for the next Democratic Party nominee for president in 2028. And this clip is going viral from his sit-down with comedian Andrew Schulz. What you are about to see is an effective politician play Schulz like a flute here over the government's role in our lives and the necessity for government research to support private businesses. This sounds really good until you realize what's actually been happening. Check this out.
The federal government could not have invented the iPhone, right? Like, I don't think any of us would want a phone that was like invented by the federal government.
That thing would suck.
That is like all of the design, the manufacturing, supply chains. That's the kind of thing that corporations can do very well. Yeah. And Apple did it very well, and their competitors. But What makes the iPhone work? Well, among other things, the internet. The internet was literally invented by a federal research project. And it would never have been possible to invent the internet with a private company because you wouldn't have got the kind of capital return, even though it's a $1 trillion idea or a multi-trillion-dollar idea. You know, companies can do multi-billion-dollar ideas, but a $1 trillion idea, like inventing the internet, that requires basic research. And that's the kind of thing the government's supposed to do, among many other things.
It requires basic research? What does that mean?
Yeah, by basic research, I mean things that are so fundamental that you actually don't know for 50 or 100 years if they're going to have a return. They might never work out.
Oh, right. Yeah. You can't look at it as this thing's going to be profitable. It has to be
So it's different
benevolent
from
endeavor for society.
Yeah, it's different from research on like a pharmaceutical company researches a new medication, expecting that they're going to
there's going to be a return in the next 10, 20 years.
Right, at least kind of within the kind of profit horizon.
But public parks is another version of this and stuff like that. You can't privatize the public park.
Right. This is the whole idea of public goods. Right? This is why we have governments, why we collect taxes.
God, we're turning into such libs already, dude.
But there's a handshake, right? There are the things that only the government can do, and then there are the things that the private sector can and should do, and they meet in the middle. But if you start shorting, and part of what really worries me right now about this kind of war on academia, and there are some things about academia that need to change, but the war on academia, the cuts to cancer research, the cuts to science research, this kind of like general anti-science like atmosphere that I think is emanating from the administration, like that costs us in ways that don't show up on a corporate profit and loss statement 6 months from now or a year from now. But in terms of whether a country, a society, an economy is productive and is growing and is innovating, that starts to really cost you over time. And if we're shorting that, or if corporations and extremely wealthy people don't want to be paying into that through taxes, that is, I think, a classic example of a kind of short-term gain that causes long-term pain.
Sure, a properly functioning government serves its public role in support of the private sector, but that is not what has been happening. What has been happening is that in the name of basic research, the left has set up a bureaucracy for advocating progressive ideology in the United States and beyond using taxpayer dollars. The war on academia, the cuts to medical and cancer research, and the attack on science by this administration, man, these lies are so deceptively wrapped. Ridding universities of DEI and violations of civil rights laws, he calls the war on academia. Doge finding fraud, waste, and abuse, he calls cuts to medical and cancer research. And the attack on science, coming from the man whose party thinks that men can be women, the party who said the COVID vaccine was safe and effective and threatened the entire country for not getting it. The science. Give me a break. Guys, if you all enjoyed this, please make sure to subscribe for my God First commentary, reactions, and conversations on the most important issues of our time to keep you in the truth and on the path toward your potential in this life. I'm Zach Costello.